What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing our Green Bay Packers 2025 NFL mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube below my face and my board. It is not predictive. These are the players that I fell in love with. I back it up with all 22 clips over on X. So let's get into this. If you do want to support the show, go use the code HAILMARY when you sign up for UnderDog Fantasy. Get up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you sign up. They send me $60, but I actually use the site anyways. I love them. They treat you guys well. They treat me well. Let's get into this. This is an Ohio State. Like, look at this shit. This is so fucking fire. Ended up actually getting it as a gift. So super hype. Early birthday gift right there. But, you know, Ohio State, the hell is this thing called? A bomber jacket. But we're going to be referencing our lads today. Again, we're going to get assaulted with memes, or not with memes. That would be honestly a lot more entertaining than ads. But we are going to be doing that. This is a live mock draft. Let's see who falls to 23. And so, did they end up taking one of my... Oh, they took Donnie already. You guys know, if you guys watched my 2-round mock draft that was earlier this week. I love taking Donovan Ezeraku to the Packers, but we got a good amount of players that did fall to us here, technically. Again, this is Trev's board, so, I mean, it is a reflection of what's going on. I'm sure behind the scenes they have, like, probability detectors onto like certain guys who should fall versus guys who shouldn't. But let's look over the depth chart here. As you can see, I've already been peeking, but quarterback wise, obviously you're set. We don't even need to think about that even in the 7th round. Running back wise, you could try to get someone else, but I really just want Marshawn Lloyd to be healthy. Emmanuel Wilson is someone who I personally really like. But tight end wise, you get Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, both of them really solid players. You could try to get a third dude, but again, that's something that you're going to think about in the 7th round for reinforcements more than anything. Offensive line-wise, I mean, I know Rashid is coming up on that contract. People talked about getting like the heir apparent to him. You could do that, but I also think that's a later issue. Center, I know people have been trying to get rid of Josh Myers for a hot second, so I respect it. You could go guard and kick Jenkins to center. Sean Ryan's here. Jordan Morgan's here. If you don't want to go after that guard route and end up wanting to bring Jordan Morgan and Sean Ryan as your 2 starting guards. Love Jordan Morgan as a guard. So excited to see that he's actually able to do that. And this is the perfect team for it. You guys love to take undersized offensive tackles and, you know, use them at a multitude of positions, and you guys do it well. Shout out to Kateem Telfort. I still remember like the first, I think it was, he's South Alabama, right? Like the first South Alabama game that I ended up watching, I ended up seeing this dude who's like 6'8", hauling ass at the same speed as the running back. So big fan of his game, but maybe we can end up reinforcing with the depth interior offensive lineman and, you know, maybe one that has that tackle versatility in case you want to develop him to be that long-term option. But wide receiver-wise, Christian Watson probably going to be out a notable portion of the year after tearing his ACL at the end of the year, which is really, really sucky. Jaden Reed, someone who is a little bit splash. You know, he's on, he's not as a fantasy owner, I know. But he's a very, very good player nonetheless. Romeo Doubs, we still love him to death. Same thing with Bo Melton here. Dontavian Wicks is a good player as well. Has been mentioned in some certain trade talks when people were talking about DK. But regardless, I mean, you have a bunch of guys who are legitimate high-end contributors. No shade to Malik Heath here, but I mean, these are the players that I feel a lot more confident talking about. They're very, very good players. But you still potentially need to go after a true one, which we will discuss in the first. But defensively, Jeff Hafley's system, you fired your defensive line coach because you have a lot of talent and they weren't performing like it. Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, like Brenton Cox. Brenton Cox still in the league. That's insane. I really like Brenton, and then think what? He tested out very poorly, had some issues at Florida, but good to see him still sticking around on 53s. But you look at the defensive interior here, TJ Slayton's up, but you do have Devontae Wyatt who needs to be taking a step up. You have Carl Brooks, who I still really like, and you have Colby Wooden. Like, a very good defensive front. And maybe you can end up getting a true starter, but like on the defensive front, but I just personally really, really like what you guys have there. You have a very good team. You have a championship caliber team, but I mean, don't take that lightly. That's a legitimate compliment. I'm not saying that to butter your buns, so to speak. But linebacker, what the fuck? Linebacker wise, you got Quay Walker here, who we all know has not lived up to that 1st round hype. It's unfortunate. You got Tyron Hopper, who I mean, right now looks like an absolute useless 3rd round pick, which I love Tyron Hopper. I'm a Tyron Hopper guy. Not in the NFL, and especially when you got Edgerrin Cooper, it just seemed like too much of a luxury pick when you could have ended up addressing some other areas. But Edgerrin Cooper was my favorite linebacker from last year. I thought he was a 1st round grade player, and he slipped to the 2nd, which was stupid as hell, but you guys ended up capitalizing on it. Excellent choice there with Edgerrin Cooper. Isaiah McDuffie, honestly, Don't mind him at all as a Sam either. But you look at the corner core. I've heard some rumors that Jair might not be with you guys next year. But even with Jair, I still don't want Keyshawn Nixon or Eric Stokes being the corner too. And Eric Stokes up for a contract too. You got Carrington Valentine, who I liked at Kentucky. Not as a true starter, but someone who's like definitely worth keeping on the squad. Then you got Corey Ballantyne too. Very entertaining. But Javon Bullard, I mean, he's a dog, literally from college and also in the NFL. Very good player. Evan Williams was an absolute steal. I feel pissed I didn't have a grade on him. Xavier McKinney, DPOY, nearly DPOY material, but all pro nonetheless. Great team. Bottom line, great team. You don't need too much. So let's address the areas where we should try to address. And at this spot, you could even go for another Georgia first-round linebacker, which would be fucking nuts. But I think the areas that I think the Packers could be focused on is still that edge position, right? You do look at it like Rashawn. Health has been an issue, to be fair. But, I mean, when you do have Van Ness, who hasn't been him, like he hasn't not been the guy that you drafted in the first, and you look at Anagbari, and I love Kingsley coming into the NFL. He was an absolute steal. One of my favorite picks that entire draft. But you still do need an edge too. Like, it's still something you should be looking at. So I'm looking at guys like JT Tuimalau who could mirror that size, Nick Scorton who could mirror that size. But looking at the corners right now, like at 55, who can I get? If I can get a Zaire Thomas at 55, I think I'm going to be cooking with Crisco. So I feel very comfortable pushing that need to the next round. And you guys will see I try to strategize as much as possible up front so we don't end up getting embarrassed down the line. Jared Wilson's going to be my third round pick for us just because he's such a good athlete. You can use him all across the line. Or, I mean, worst case scenario, we can go Jonas Savania, which would end up pairing him back with Jordan Morgan. So I'm really liking, like, corners already kind of fulfilled. Wide receiver wise, it is a tougher decision. Because we could try to wait till 124 and then try to go after like Dante Thornton. But I've already done that so many times, Caden Prather. But that kind of feels so Packery that we might honestly want pick 55 to be going after one of these players. And I love Jack Bech to death. And there's no trades in these before you guys get into like, oh, you should trade back. But like Jack Bech is the hot take here as the selection in the first round. We did not get the players I normally select for the Packers in the first. You know what? I'm still going to take a corner. I don't think Azaria falls to 55. And honestly, even if he does, I think Trey Amos is going to be a first round pick. The Eagles are meeting with him, and I sure as hell know he's not going to be falling to 64 unless something crazy happens. He looked incredible in Mobile. I think he has that physicality you're looking for, and people are talking about this guy as someone without flaws. I think he's still working on the zone coverage. I know you ran 71% of it last year, but I also think you can run a lot of zone when you don't trust your guys to be one-on-one. So I think even in zone, Trey Amos is going to be fine. I am still going to go after that route and see what we get here in the second. Let's look at the receivers who ended up falling to us. You got Jalen Knoll here, Jalen Royals. I mean, like, Jalen Knoll's super fun. Like, a very, very fun player. But I do think at his frame, he's going to be a little bit of a competitor with Reed. I'm not going to do that. Again, right now, we're seeing that the mock draft simulator is giving us a particular direction for us to go in. And that's not one that I really wanted to. I was kind of hoping for Iomain or maybe Besh to kind of slip to us. And, you know, we could end up having a little bit more fun there. But, you know, you got to pick up the pieces where they are and then continue moving forward. I don't think that two corners in this draft is going to be a bad strategy. Like, personally, I don't. You could try to develop Urzuri at this point. Again, I'm looking at Savania at 87, and that's kind of like, that's my dream because he can play all those positions, so I like the flexibility, and I think that fits with what you guys are trying to aim for as an organization. It's a tough spot to be in. Jordan Burch would be super fun. He also brings he brings the larger frame and is someone who is extremely athletic at his size. He's not 6'6", 295. He was 267. Or was he 279? He was in the 270 range. So just trying to remember if it was 279 or 267. I'm trying to remember which one that is. Not going to pull it out of my ass at the moment. But regardless, I do think actually Jordan Burch might be the best move. We look back at this again. We want someone to be a legit even front end. And this dude's an even front end to a T. Like, he is built very well. He has excellent acceleration, excellent power. I think the consistency can improve undoubtedly. But, I mean, I'm not going to take Braden Swinson to every team. He has some even front end stuff. Jack Sawyer has like 31-inch arms. sub 32. Not a fan of that. I'm going to rock with Jordan Burch here because I really believe in this guy. I really do. And he took a step up this year at Oregon. I think that he's the most underrated edge rusher in the class. If you do want to toss someone else in here, I know that he gets criminally underrated on this board, but I know that Trev's probably just going to push him up in time. Femi Oladejo at 140. I think that he's another selection you could talk about here in the second. I'm going to go Jordan Burch, though, because I love his size, speed, smoothness. Like, he's just built to be a fucking savage. At 87, we're going to go after Savania. I've been telegraphing this. The three-position versatility with left tackle, right tackle, and guard, but also people talk about that center possibility as well, and you combine him with a player he used to play with in Jordan Morgan. It lines up perfectly. I don't really care who else is on the board. Like, chemistry is a huge thing for offensive line. Hello. And so I think it's going to be a great addition. JJ Peggies is here at 124. Honestly, not a bad player to bring in. And it feels very Packery that on day 3, you start taking the best player available. And you do a great job at it. Again, I have no idea why Femi Oladejo is looked at so negatively on this board. I do think it's just outdated. And happens to the best of us, for me too. I mean, the sad thing is Trev is the only one who's pretty much building this board, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, with the amount of shit that I know that guy is doing, shout out to Trevor Sikkema, like, unreal work ethic, I respect it. But honestly, I'd probably just try to patch your wide receiver hole in free agency. This class, especially based on how the board's built, is not really built well for you. I really like JJ Peggies because, again, you end up losing TJ Slayton, and you bring in Devontae White or Carl Brooks, but, I mean, you do need somebody else who could be a true potential one. And JJ Peggy's an every down contributor to me. He improved his athleticism noticeably from last year to this year. I was very against JJ Peggy's last year. And he's done a phenomenal job. He looked great in person at the Shrine Bowl. And he's someone who I believe in a ton. And I do see him being a very good fit on the Packers. Was once listed at 325. I'm forgetting the exact number from the combine numbers. But, I mean, he's somebody who I have a lot of faith in. At number 160, we could end up going after that second corner here. Someone maybe like Quincy Riley. You guys have pretty much not gambled. It was a first round pick on a player who's great. But you look at a undersized Louisville corner and ended up betting on him. Quincy Riley could be the same thing. He has a lot of ball production as well in the previous year. Well, I think he had better ball production. He had 7 on his career. I was thinking he had 7 the year before. But Quincy Riley, nonetheless, has a ton of pass breakups. You talk about 12 forced incompletions this past year, even in a down year. You guys sometimes like to buy low, and I respect that. Buy low, sell high. That's a good strategy going forward. Logan Brown's a good depth player as well. Let's go back and let's look at what we are looking for. We've already addressed defensive interior. We addressed edge rusher as well. We addressed a boundary corner position too. You could try to end up getting an extra nickel back in here who has that boundary flexibility and then kind of solve 2 positions in one. You like limit your risk at nickel, and then you also build yourself somebody to play for the boundary. We addressed interior offensive line, shifting Morgan to guard, Elton to center, and then having someone who could play multiple positions in Savania. Wide receiver wise, we are still lacking, but I do think this team does have what it takes, even with the core that it does have. So there's not really many pressing areas of need. So let's look at what is given to us. And you got Upton Stout here, who I like, but you talk about Elijah Huzzy here. I haven't shown this guy enough love. This guy was really good in Dallas, and Shrine Bowl player. He's somebody who's extremely fluid, and he's very, very, very good at the catch point. He's had some top-end games throughout the past year, and 11 forced incompletions, really solid for someone who's purely a slot. I'm like 99%. Yeah, okay. He played primarily boundary? Oh, man. I forgot this year. At the Shrine, he was primarily slot. And he was the year before. I totally forgot about his transition to the boundary. And honestly, that makes me feel even better because he actually performed, in my opinion, better in the slot than on the boundary. But still, ended up having a lot of experience all across. And you guys like to take players that are, again, best player available. And I trust you guys to do this. We're going to go Elijah Huzzy here. It's a player I haven't taken in these 7 rounders that I really, really appreciate and love. So here at pick number 200, I love this idea. Chimere DK or Caden Prather. Chim DK, Ty Felton's such a Packer. Smooth, great value too. Like, it's really the value thing that fits the Packer MO. I'm going to go Ty Felton here. Ty Felton is so underrated. Like, I don't get it. He's ridiculously underrated, but it is what it is. At number 239, do you guys have a legitimate receiving back that I think could be as good of a route runner as Quay Marks? I don't think so. Quay Marks, or it's Woody Marks, not Quay. Woody Marks is really, really underrated as a route runner. Like, very smooth. Xavier Truss fits your MO, though. I mean, you could develop him to be a true tackle if you really want to. That's some extra interior depth right there. You talk about Tommy Hill, having him as a backup safety if you want. Zachary Franklin has huge arms and big-ass hands. Like, could be someone you try to develop as a depth X. Not a bad choice. Dante Trader, really good. But to me, it really comes down to Xavier Truss as well as Woody Marks. And I'm gonna go Xavier Truss. You can't really go wrong here, though. I just love the idea of having someone who is big, who is athletic, and who is a really good run blocker, especially as a guard, there as a backup for you guys to have when you do have all these shifting pieces on the interior of the offensive line. So that wasn't our last pick. I kind of forgot about that. We do have pick number 251. And looking at the guys who are available, you could try to go Jackson Meeks here, who has a good physical profile. I mean, he's someone who's draftable for sure. He's a draftable player. Corner, again, you could try to go after someone like Tommy Hill, who's smooth and fluid, very high IQ, but not a great athlete. Again, we could, could go after Donovan Edwards here. Wouldn't be a horrible value at all. Could go after that third tight end. Honestly, Maliki Matavao is a very solid tight end 3. Like a very solid tight end 3. And he's solid after the catch, in my opinion. We're going to go Maliki Matavao. I think that's good. So, this is going to be the Packers draft. Of course, we're going to be redoing one of these after free agency as well. We started out by addressing that boundary corner position that we really needed. Also added in Elijah Huzzy, who has experience in the boundary and the slot, to be able to provide some good depth there. On the defensive line, we got J.J. Peggies, who could probably start right away. Jordan Birch, who in my opinion should be the immediate starter there. On top of that, we fixed up the offensive line, getting interior offensive line / tackle duo, but backup offensive lineman Jonas Savania to kind of train up and see which position is going to be best for him. Of course, he has that chemistry there with Jordan Morgan, and then also Xavier Truss, which was just a flyer pick on a very solid, very athletic tackle. Maliki Matavao, tight end 3, and Ty Felton, insane value on this board. So I love getting that little steal here and there. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for watching. Love you. See you on the far side. Peace.